by the Montana Television Network. Montana This Morning continues on Montana's News Leader.
Florida Governor Rick Scott says Hurricane Michael is responsible for unimaginable destruction. I'm Laura Podesta. I'll show you images of the damage, including one town that was nearly flattened.
Tourists are spending more right here in Gallatin County than anywhere else in the state. I'm Adair Spab, and later on I'll tell you the positive and negative impacts that come along with that.
Happy Friday, Southwest Montana, 6:30. Chet Lehman with you here. Missy O'Malley is off. Matt Elwell has our weekend forecast in a moment. Meantime, an update. Hurricane Michael now being blamed for 11 deaths, including 5 in Virginia. It also includes an 11-year-old Georgia girl who was killed by debris that ripped through her house. Crews are searching for survivors through the seemingly endless devastation on the Florida Panhandle. CBS's Laura Podesta has more this morning from New York.
Rescue teams are going door to door in Mexico Beach, Florida, searching for survivors of Hurricane Michael.
I just started crying because I see Louisiana, I see Miami, I see people who have been through this before and understand.
The quiet tourist town took the brunt of the storm's 155-mile-per-hour winds.
Everybody we know lost their house, everybody, and their jobs.
State officials say 285 Mexico Beach residents ignored the mandatory evacuation order. That includes Dawn Vickers, who says the storm knocked her house off its foundation.
I noticed that things seemed to be moving outside, and I thought that trees were going by, and I realized it was our house.
In nearby Panama City, the damage is enough to shock even the most experienced rescue workers.
I've been in the fire service 36 years, and to see freight train cars just blown over, semis blown off the road into the woods, it's just unimaginable.
A weakened but still ferocious Michael hit the Carolinas and Virginia yesterday, where flash flooding led to dozens of rescues.
When I turned, I immediately started sinking. I knew that I had hit the ditch. And I put it in reverse, and of course, it didn't go anywhere.
A North Carolina man was killed when a tree fell on his car. Laura Podesta, CBS News.
And again, CNN reporting 5 killed in Virginia as Michael makes its way across the southeast. Roughly 1.5 million customers from Florida up to Virginia have lost power because of the storm. Florida Governor Rick Scott says 20,000 utility workers are working to repair down power lines in just his state. So the devastation is extreme, and the fatality count now at 11.
Pretty amazing storm. The system still impacting the United States, even though it is in the cooler waters in the Atlantic. At this point, you can see that moisture still working up from New York back toward Boston. So something that we're going to continue to watch as we go through the next handful of days. Look how quickly this just takes a beeline. As we head into the late part of the week next week, back into across the pond area. So we're going to be watching this move out in quick fashion. Temperatures this morning into the 20s. We have relatively clear skies. Wind speeds expected to pick up later today. Our temperatures going to be below average once again, but we're creeping ever so much closer to average with our temperatures today. Tomorrow, a little different story. Your complete forecast coming up.
Thanks, Matt. Just ahead of 6:34 now on this Friday. Last week, we told you that a high-ranking Montana Republican told us the president would be returning to Montana. Now, sources in the Republican Party have confirmed to MTN News that President Donald Trump planning to visit Missoula next Thursday. Missoula County Sheriff's Office said in social media posts that they've been invited to a meeting by the U.S. Secret Service to address security measures in the event of a potential presidential visit to the Garden City. President Trump has already visited Billings and Great Falls in recent weeks to support Republican U.S. Senate candidate Matt Rosendale. Now, President Trump's planned visit to Missoula has Republicans in western Montana excited. It also gives them an opportunity to talk about their political stance on an elevated platform, something that can be quite difficult in liberal-leaning Missoula. MTN's Connor McCauley has more.
Donald Trump is coming to Missoula, which sounds like an odd choice for the president. Missoula might be considered a liberal stronghold, but one state house rep from the area says the idea of Missoula's Republicans not being important to the upcoming elections is misguided.
Truth is that in every single county, even though there might be a majority of one party or another, it's actually a really significant part of the other party. So here in Missoula, 40% of the county is Republican. right? And so when it comes to elections, especially when it comes to, say, a United States Senate election, that 40% is a big deal. And in fact, when you're looking at the electoral math to get yourself across the finish line in Montana for a Republican, Missoula is pretty darn important.
Not only are Missoula Republicans important, but so are the state, House, and Senate races they will be voting in. Montana GOP members say that visits to Big Sky Country from the president, Mike Pence, and Trump's son Don Jr. validate that opinion.
We're looking at 6 or 7 stops by the president, by the president's son, by the vice president. So I think it tells you how important Montana is this time around for this election. I think it tells you, regardless of what party you're from, how important it is for you to get out and vote.
So what topics should Trump be emphasizing on his Missoula visit?
I don't know about one point. I guess I'll try to split it into 2 and be a politician for a second. So the first point to make is that it's working. 3.9% unemployment is a pretty darn good thing. The tax cuts allowing more people to be hired is a pretty good thing. Returning more money to people's pockets so that they have more decisions that they can make in their own personal budgets is a pretty big thing. The second part, the case that I think that he should be making is that, look, Jon Tester had his chance. And Jon Tester looked into a camera to all of us in Montana and he said, look, I'm not going to take lobbyist money. Now he's the #1 recipient of lobbyist cash. He said, I'm going to only run for 2 terms. Now here he is running for a 3rd term. He said, I'm going to fight against the big banks. Now he's the second, major getter of bank money in the state or in the country. There has to be some sort of penalty to looking us in the eye and lying to us.
In Missoula, Connor McCauley, MTN News.
Now, GOP U.S. Senate challenger Matt Rosendale says he's thankful for the support of the administration, believes the visits by not only the president but his son and the vice president are benefiting the state.
I think it's been great for the state. We've had a lot of economic benefit from it, and certainly for my campaign, I'm really, really excited. I think it shows the confidence that the president has in our race and our campaign, and the likelihood that with his assistance, we can flip this seat.
Now, a spokesperson for Senator Jon Tester's campaign says he hopes the president will take some time to visit some of Montana's rural areas as well as some of the state veteran facilities. President Trump, he said, quote, should visit the future site of the Southwest Montana Veterans Home that Matt Rosendale voted against and Jon Tester fought for, or head to Columbia Falls to see the Veterans Home there that Rosendale voted against funding, end quote. Now, a new report from the University of Montana shows tourism spent close to $700 million in Gallatin County from 2016 to 2017. That's the highest in the state. MTN's Medeiros Babb reports on the good and not so good impact of tourism.
I think we cannot discount tourism and the part that it plays in the contribution to our economy.
Gallatin County ranks #1 in Big Sky Country when it comes to non-residents pulling out their checkbooks.
$660 million generates about 8,500 jobs directly, so it's very important to our economy.
Mayor Cindy Andrus believes Bozeman is the driving force in that equation.
I think Bozeman is particularly an economic engine in our county, and we certainly have a lot to offer when it comes to those amenities.
Close to 50% of tourism spending goes to lodging, restaurants, and guides. The Bozeman Chamber of Commerce says that they are trying to bring more people to the region by trying new online marketing.
We're trying to do everything we can do to sustain and take full advantage of the $677 million of expenditures to make sure that Bozeman gets their fair share of it.
But along with positives come negatives, like the wear on the infrastructure burdened by local residents through property taxes. These negatives have propelled local governments to look at implementing a local sales option tax.
I think that the local option tax is a subject that we really need to visit and see what the impacts of that would be on our property tax owners as far as reduction of property taxes paid to the county and the cities would be. I think it's a very interesting option.
We continue to look for all options that help to alleviate that tax burden for the local residents. So it will be one of the tools in our toolbox that we will continue to look at.
Whether the county and city will be able to enforce a sales tax will ultimately be decided by the state legislature this winter. In Bozeman, Medeiros Babb, MTN News.
Now, Montana does not have a sales tax, but it does have a 3% resort tax. However, that is limited to communities smaller than Bozeman. Back on the international scene, a possible murder mystery could put the United States at odds with Saudi Arabia, a key ally. There are reports the Washington journalist killed by a group of Saudis. There's a bipartisan push for the White House to demand answers. CNN's John Lawrence has more.
More than a week has passed since Washington Post columnist Jamal Khashoggi vanished. This closed-circuit footage shows the Saudi journalist heading into what Turkish authorities say was a death trap.
We're determined to get to the bottom of it, and we'll have more on that in the near future.
The Washington Post reports the government of Turkey told the U.S. it has audio and video recordings that prove Khashoggi was murdered inside the Saudi consulate in Istanbul. Senators in both parties want answers.
The intel points directly at them and them thinking about this in advance. The administration will have to pay attention to that.
Where somebody apparently has been murdered because they had the audacity to speak out against the ruling people in their country. If we do nothing, what do we stand for?
On the same day Khashoggi went missing, Turkish authorities say a group of Saudi men flew into Istanbul and checked into a hotel near the consulate. About 2 hours after Khashoggi entered the consulate that day, security footage leaked to Turkish media shows tinted consulate vehicles leaving the area. Saudi officials deny any involvement in the disappearance of Khashoggi.
But it's a very serious situation, and it's something we're taking very seriously.
I'm John Lawrence reporting.
Now, on Wednesday, a bipartisan group of senators sent a letter to the White House specifically calling on President Trump to determine if Saudi Arabia is responsible for Khashoggi's death. And we'll continue to follow that story. Meantime, we're going to take a quick break here, Montana This Morning. When we come back, where do the candidates for Senate stand on the issue of health care? We'll talk with them when we come back. But first, here's a look ahead at what's coming up at 7 on CBS This Morning.
Good morning. Ahead on CBS This Morning, we're in one of Hurricane Michael's hardest hit areas as victims return home for the first time. And first on CBS This Morning, go for a ride in Google's self-driving taxi service. We'll show you how Waymo vehicles work ahead of their planned launch. We'll see you at 7.